Welcome back, everyone. This is our penultimate lesson on the locations of Jeor'n-Dith. As always, I am your instructor Taishi, and this is. Today, we will be covering all but two locations that are not allied with the government of a continent and are on the planet. The two we will not be covering are the Roth and Torn Prime, both for their own reasons. The Roth is a location so steeped in culture and history that it would require a lesson of its own to cover all that has happened in its time akin to the continents, and Torn Prime will be covered when we talk about the Torn War more in depth, as it is directly linked to the conflict. These locations are smaller, so you will not be receiving a continent's worth of information like you did with the previous lessons. However, I can assure you there is plenty of information to be handed out about these locations. The first location we will discuss is the Grotto Port Behemoth is one of the few mossback titans alive today. It was last seen wandering around the naval sea with a sizable settlement in its back. Something I forgot to mention the last time I talked about the mossbacks, and more specifically the titans, is that the hide above the spine is effectively just stone. Biologically, it is hide, however, there are no nerves, blood vessels, or organs, and it is as hard as stone in this portion of its hide. Because of this, the town of Grotto Port is carved into the back of the Titan. This position allows the townspeople to traverse the world and gather and sell items in all corners of it. They mainly sell special types of moss and fungi that grow when a mossback gets wet. However, I have heard a few people claiming that they have gotten tools or weapons made from mossback titan hide, but I have not seen it fit to investigate these claims any further. The people of Grotoport have become quite proficient at slaying sea monsters, as despite, or possibly because of, the size of this beast, it is constantly under attack from such monsters. That is all I have on the Grotoport Behemoth. Our next location is Monster Island is, as you may have guessed, an island full of monsters. Before we begin on this topic, I must first give thanks to those that helped me research this location: Ava, Ceylon, and Brock Stormfist. These adventurers risked their lives adventuring through the dense forest of dangerous plants and battling dangerous foes. According to their notes, they fought against the likes of dragons, animated statues, shambling mounds, and even a powerful undead that was attempting to ascend to godhood. But that was only one experience, and we will now be moving on to the more broad strokes of the island. Monster Island is located in a small pocket of sea in between the Darnium and Astronaut. The monsters here are not as large as those that exist in our next location, however, they far outnumber them. It is near impossible to get to this island by sea because of the density of the air and fog surrounding it, however, not completely impossible. It is easier to teleport as long as you have the means, however. While the name might make it seem as if the creatures are the only worry on the island, the flora is also extremely dangerous. Every plant on the island is either alive, poisonous, razor sharp, or a combination of any amount of previously mentioned features, and even some non-mentioned features. And with that, I have said everything I have to say about Monster Island, and we'll be moving on to our next topic. Large island a ways off the coast of Astronaut, between it and the Four Torrens. The monsters here are large, there is no doubt about that. However, in the past they were clearly much, much larger. The main feature of this island is a large skeleton of a serpent sprawling across the entire land. History of other creatures of similar size or of a similar size difference to their modern counterparts have not been found. However, for one to exist somewhat implies the existence of more. A bit over 200 years ago, an expedition was sent to the island to investigate and research. However, the group that sent them stopped receiving messages after about a month. The name of this island, as I'm sure you may be able to guess, is from the old folk tale of the island that fell into the sea named Rock'n'Book. That is all I have to say on this island, because, as I have inferred, it is extremely dangerous. Now, our second to last topic is Leviathan's Hold is a prison built many miles under sea level on an island half a mile or so off the coast of Bannekerd. It keeps itself unaligned with any one continent for legality purposes, as it is the largest prison in the world and sends extremely dangerous criminals from all over to live in it. There are many parts of the prison, from the cells to the massive elevator that takes you from the entrance to the main part of the prison. However, the most remarkable location within the prison is simply known as the Pit, and it is, as its name entails, a large pit that houses a leviathan. Wardens threaten to drop inmates in and feed them to the beast. However, these are empty threats, and everyone knows as such. While admitted to the prison, creatures are equipped with two large cuffs to their wrists, heavy metal boots, and a thick collar The thick cuffs and boots magically create chains to restrain prisoners when necessary and keep them from swimming much more so than heavy boots and cuffs normally would. While the collar does grant the ability to live underwater and under immense pressures even, it also saps the vitality of anyone wearing one. They are also given bright red clothes so that they stick out to both the wardens and the Leviathan when necessary. Our next and final location is Niver-Blithaven is a large island very close to the eastern coast of the Dardic Kingdom. Aside from four specific locations, the island is very flat and very close to sea level, almost dangerously so, but that is not of any concern right now. The first location we will talk about here is the Blushing Bear Bones, named for their bright pink color. These snake bones are not as large as those on Rock'n'Book Island, however, are still abnormally large. Next is Highland Fort, a bastion built in the northernmost plateau on the island, which was built to fend off intruders that attempt to come and colonize or take resources from the island. High Wall Plateau is the southern of the two plateaus. Allegedly, the remains of a long-dead master sit atop the plateau, however the people of the island refuse to climb and find out, and will flat out ignore anyone who has climbed the mountain. The last location on the island is Lilypad River. This river does not have a single lily pad in it, however it does have small islands and is full of grung and other peaceful bullywugs and frog-like creatures. I specify the pacificity of these bullywugs because of the special feature of this island and how it earns its name. Never-Blithaven is not inhabited by monsters and actively turns monsters that approach away, hence I say Never-Blitzed-Haven. It is said that Goinai, the warden dragon of all bloodhunters, put a ward over this island, and in doing so, inadvertently created the phenomenon of Monster Island. But that wraps up our lesson on most of the unaffiliated locations in Jeor'n-Dith. Our next and final topic on the locations of Jeor'n-Dith will be one of the two not covered today, the Rough. I hope to see you there. Goodbye.
Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. You lose, I've been running, shit, know I can come and last. Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. I've been working too long, no, there ain't no time for naps. Can't stop.